Hello everybody and welcome to Theory Pop, taking a refreshing look at the movies, games and TV shows you love. Today's subject is Bendy and the Ink Machine, and we'll be examining the very fabric of reality itself. Being a horror game, Bendy and the Ink Machine has some strange, supernatural elements to it. From the terrifying inky monstrosity that is Bendy, to creepy musical directors that vanish around corners, there's a lot of spooky goings on that seem to defy the laws of conventional science. While there have been theories suggesting Henry is in a dream or a coma, I'm going to suggest a radical alternative theory, one that can explain everything happening within the game. Henry is inside a cartoon. In Chapter 1, Moving Pictures, while Henry is searching for a means to activate the ink machine, he enters a room with a power switch on the far wall and 6 pedestals, 3 on either side of the room. Behind each pedestal is an image identifying the objects Henry must collect to activate the ink machine. Once Henry has retrieved the objects, he returns to this room to activate the power switch. However, as he passes the pedestals, the items he has collected are not resting on the columns, but are floating above them, apparently suspended by some strange power. And Henry doesn't say anything. We know Henry is quite vocal about things that look out of place or surprise him. Take the sudden appearance of this Bendy cutout.
Who put this here?
Or encountering the dissected body of Boris strapped to a table.
Oh my god. Joey, what were you doing?
Henry will point out anything to the player that doesn't belong or is out of the ordinary, so to ignore 6 floating items in a room is a major clue as to the nature of the reality Henry is in. That isn't normal! They shouldn't be floating like that! Obey the laws of physics and sit on your pedestals, damn it! Henry isn't the only character in the game that voices their thoughts. Across both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, we find various tape recorders scattered around the workshop, with recordings from various staff from Joey's studio. We hear from Sammy Lawrence.
Can I get an amen?
Susie Campbell.
People really seem to enjoy my Alice Angel voice.
Norman Polk.
I've got half a mind to talk to Mr. Drew about all this, I really do.
And of course, Wally Franks.
At this point, I don't get what Joey's plan is for this company.
What's interesting about Wally Franks' tape recorder messages is the phrase that he repeats on each one during his monologues.
If one more of these pipes burst, I'm out of here. I just hope nobody tells Sammy, because if he finds out I lost my keys again, I'm out of here.
This line has become Wally's catchphrase and is something of a fan favourite. There are even t-shirts of this quote on the official Bendy and the Ink Machine store. T-shirts! You know who else has their catchphrase on merchandise? Cartoon characters. Lots and lots of cartoon characters. While those 2 points could indicate the possibility of Henry being trapped inside a cartoon, they're not conclusive. Well, I hope you're prepared because we're about to get scientific with this theory. First, let's examine the physics of the game. After activating the ink machine and encountering Bendy for the first time, Henry flees for the exit, only to fall through the floor and down into what we could assume to be the basement. He lands on his feet and, now out of immediate danger, looks for a way out. But should Henry be alive after a fall like that, let alone able to walk? Just how far did Henry fall? The average height of a single story in buildings in the US is approximately 10 feet, or 3 meters. This is the ceiling height of the room plus the thickness of the floor. Without delving into pixel counting, we can use this as a guide for the height of the stories in the workshop. If we examine Henry's fall in slow motion, we can count the number of stories he falls before he lands in the basement. Henry falls a total of 6 stories, which gives us a total fall height of 60 feet. But what if we want to be more accurate than that? We don't want just an estimate of how far Henry fell, we want to know the exact height. And I'm also curious as to just how accurately the developers represented gravity within the game. Well, we can do exactly that. Timing Henry's fall, we see that it was 2.03 seconds from the point of the floor collapsing to his impact with the ground below. We also know one other key factor, the force of gravity. The standard value for gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, or 32.2 feet per second squared. We're going to work out the height Henry fell by using the following equation. Height equals half gravity multiplied by time squared. Using those figures, we get a fall height of 20.2 meters, or 66.3 feet. That matches pretty closely with our estimate of 10 feet per floor, and this reflects what we would expect from a scientifically accurate force of gravity. Now, to work out the velocity of Henry's fall and his impact with the lower floor of the building, we will use the equation velocity equals gravity multiplied by time. Gravity remains the same as before, and we know the time was 2.03 seconds. Using these figures, we can calculate that Henry was travelling at 19.9 metres per second, or 65.31 feet per second when he hit the ground. That's over 71 kilometres per hour, but since I live in Britain and we use the imperial system, I'll just convert that and we get 44.1 miles per hour. That's a high velocity impact. And remember, this isn't falling onto a soft surface like snow or water. Henry is colliding with a solid wood floor. It's very unlikely for a human to survive a fall as high as Henry did. According to the Trauma Professionals blog, the median height leading to death is about 49 feet, or 4 to 5 stories. Henry fell at least 60 feet, placing him well above the average fatal fall distance. But there are very rare instances of people falling from greater heights and surviving. In 1972, an air stewardess, Vesna Vulovic, survived a fall of 33,000 feet after the plane she was on exploded in mid-air. She was trapped in the tail section of the plane when it hit, but was left in a coma for 27 days and broke both her legs. So let's assume the best case scenario, and Henry is incredibly lucky and somehow survives the fall. Should he be able to walk away afterwards? Well, no. On the 19th of May 1987, in northwest Pennsylvania, a man named John Troutner decided to climb a grain silo with his friend. He fell from the top of the silo, a distance of approximately 60 feet, injuring his wrists, breaking his pelvis in 6 places, shattering his ribs and a vertebra. Though he survived the fall, John was seriously injured and spent 2 weeks in hospital recovering. This was a fall similar in height to Henry's. There is no way Henry should be able to walk away from that impact, unless he is a cartoon character. Animated characters survive falls from great heights with surprising frequency. One of the most famous examples is Wile E. Coyote. On his never-ending quest to catch the Roadrunner, he often falls into canyons or off the edge of cliffs that appear to be hundreds of feet high, but he always survives because as a cartoon character, he isn't subject to the same physical limitations and injuries as we mere mortals. This is a common trait he shares with Henry. That on its own is pretty compelling, but there is one more thing we can examine about Henry that will give us the final evidence we need to prove that Henry is an animated character trapped inside a cartoon. His stomach. Let's get biological. In Chapter 2, The Old Song, Henry finds some cans of Briar Label bacon soup. And when I say some, I mean a lot. The shelves near the first locked door puzzle of the chapter contain 20 cans of soup, and Henry can consume all of them, guzzling them down like a man possessed. No big deal, right? Everyone loves some hearty and delicious bacon soup. Wrong. The sheer amount of soup Henry consumes would kill any normal human. I know, death by soup, not exactly the most exciting way to die in a horror game. First, based on the apparent size of the cans, I'm going to assume that these are not cans of condensed soup, which tend to be smaller, but are cans of ready-to-serve soup, so we need to know just how much soup is in each can. For this, I headed over to Campbell's website and looked at soup. I chose to use Campbell's as they are one of the most popular and well-known brands, and as they have been operating since 1869, they would have been a contemporary competitor to the Briar Label soup featured in the game. According to the site, the ready-to-serve cans contain 540 millilitres of soup, or 18 fluid ounces. So, if Henry eats all 20 cans of soup on this set of shelves, he has consumed nearly 11 litres of bacon goodness. That's 2.9 gallons! That's insane! For reference, the human stomach contains around 40 millilitres of fluid in the form of stomach acid, but the average full stomach has a capacity of between 800 and 1000 millilitres, which is approximately a quarter of a gallon. Henry consumes more than 10 times this in under a minute. Consuming this much soup would force Henry's stomach to expand until it filled his entire abdomen from his ribs to his pelvis. His stomach would rupture, and Henry would need urgent medical attention or risk death. Henry's stomach would literally burst. But okay, what if we assumed that these cans of soup were not ready to serve, but were instead single servings of condensed soup? Could Henry survive eating 20 cans of Briar Label bacony goodness? The answer is still no. Turning once more to Campbell's website, their cans of condensed soup contain 284 millilitres of soup, 9.6 fluid ounces. Consuming 20 cans of condensed soup would still mean Henry has eaten more than 5 times the stomach's capacity, and it would still require urgent medical care. And I imagine that eating condensed soup straight from the can is probably an unpleasant experience. But where else can we see characters eating huge amounts of food and carrying on as normal? Again, we can turn to cartoons for examples of this. Characters eating more than they should be able to physically survive and carrying on with their lives with no ill effects. So, to summarise our findings, we have characters that barely give a second glance to the physically impossible, highly marketable catchphrases, Henry surviving a fatal fall without even a scratch, and a main character that consumes literally gut-busting amounts of food without even a burp of indigestion. All common tropes of cartoon characters. The entire game takes place inside a cartoon, and Henry is trapped inside it and doesn't even know. That's all from me for now, so I'm out of here! This has been Theory Pop, thanks for watching. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Bendy and the Ink Machine theory. What are your thoughts about the game? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button, hit subscribe to stay up to date with the latest theories, and I will see you in the next refreshing episode of Theory Pop.